right. Friday. Let's check the streams. See if we are live. Refresh this. Check my microphone. Looks like the microphone's working. Welcome. Refresh. Okay, this is not that. What is this? Oh, it's over here. Okay. Yep, we're live. Oh, like something. That off. Get audio. All right. Welcome. I popped in a couple of minutes early. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh no. I'll be right back. I was a little up minutes early, so it's okay. I'll just step away for 1 second. Okay. Getting into it. To it. Do it. Refresh this. There we go. Okay. Happy. It is Friday. Friday. How was your week? Mine was pretty good. Launched a new side project, which I'm re um, re skinning, and I launched another project. Two in a row. The new one's not quite ready. I got to get the data in there. I gotta tweak it some more before I would officially show it to anybody. But it is live. It is live, and ready to be seen. That's kind of cool. We're talking about that coming up because it is connected to South by Southwest, South by Southwest. It's coming up in less than a month. Less than a month. Because South by Southwest coming up. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, about a month. About a month away. South by Southwest. Always a big deal here in Austin, Texas. My name is Keith, and I am broadcasting from Austin, Texas. I have been scrolling text as a professional developer for over 30 years. During that time, I've split my career between production work and instruction work. At the college level, I taught many seminars and short classes. And then I also, 10 years, have taught at a lot of boot camps, which have been very popular. Last 3.5 years, last 3.5 years, I have been managing a coding boot. So my focus has really been about getting new people into the career, into the tech scene, um, and helping them in that process get a job. And one of the things that I learned early on that I didn't uh, a brilliant lesson was that getting a job sucks. There's nothing fun about getting a job. Whether you're laid off, whether you're quit and it's time to get back to it, um, fired. If you find yourself out of work and you're looking for a job, it's a solitary uh, and unfun process. Lots going on, and whether you were fired or laid off or took a voluntary leave of absence or not getting back into the grind, man, there's just a lot going on in your brain about that. The imposter syndrome, um, the head games we play with ourselves. And I created the stream as a place to come hang out while you're getting out those job applications. Consistency is the key. Getting up, getting to those job boards as quickly as possible, checking for the latest job postings and getting those job postings out, those applications out is the key. But even with that, it is challenging. We're going to see some stories today in the news about how challenging that is. Sectors are different, how much experience you had uh, have can influence that a great deal. But even in the best of situations, I had a student in the fall last year. She had stepped away from a good, high-paying job to go start a business that didn't quite pan out like she'd hoped. She had about over a year off. She was trying to get back into it, and she had all those concerns and fears, um, struggles that everybody has. Um, and it took a while. It finally clicked. She dialed in her resume and her portfolio and her LinkedIn, and she started getting some responses. But even then, it took months. Even while she was in the interview process, it took months to get that final offer. Some of that was because of going into the holidays, but um, not all of it. I mean, it's just a process. Right? Companies are slow to hire these days. They want to make sure they don't make a big mistake with the hiring process. Right? So that's what we're here. We're here to just hang out, get out those job applications, talk a little tech. I stream Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Oh, I meant to add that to that little scroll there. That's what I'm going to do. Know about that. And and it's Central Standard Time. Yeah, I am in Texas, Austin, Texas, the hub of a lot of technology. And again, spring right before spring break or spring break. It's the week before spring break here in Texas. South by Southwest holds a big interactive film festival, interactive film and music festival. And unless my employer's paying the $1,000+ um, for the badge, I don't actually go to much of the actual South by Southwest anymore. I've been asked to speak on South by Southwest in the past, um, but they're very proud of their conference and they charge a lot for it. And I'm not paying that out of pocket. But the good news is there are so many people coming to town that there's an incentive for people who are not part of the South by Southwest family to also occur many, many free events. And you can fill up your week with nothing but free events that are created alongside of, but not connected to South by Southwest that are technically. specific as it can be. So we're going to be doing that personally. We'll be doing a stream that week and then running out the door, go downtown to Capitol Factory, to a bunch of different places, and get the word out. Get the word out about many things that I'm doing, including my day job, including these streams, including a bunch of side projects I'm working on right now. This has been a year of shipping, shipping, shipping. So I've shipped 6 things in 7 weeks. 6 things in 7 weeks. That's exciting. One of the things about this job of mine is when I took this job, I'm managing the school. It's, pretty time intensive. And the focus has been really on the students. Um, and because of that, I wrote code every week, but most of the code was like beginning code to help students out. I wasn't working on big projects or the like. Uh, but that's not my orientation. My orientation is to build things, to make things. Uh, I did some non-coding side projects, a couple of those while I was working there, just to stay creative and to do interesting things. But I felt like I needed to get back to making software products and shipping. So that's what this year's all about for me. On that on that grind to ideate and deliver products, do lots of experiments, ship things that you're still a little embarrassed by. Uh, and there are definitely a couple of those things, including one of the things I've shipped is this stream. Started this new thing officially on January 1st. I did some test streams before that just to make sure I could figure out the software and stuff, at least the bare bones, and that's what I've done. Not overly iterating on this. I'm not coming up with different segments and little bumpers and that kind of stuff. I'm not super polished in the stream, but maybe over time we start to get more viewers and it starts to click with people. Maybe again, this is one of those experiments I'm running, shipping a thing, running it for maybe a full year, maybe more. If it starts to connect, then really kind of double down on polishing it. This is one of those things. But again, this is a hangout, so it doesn't need to be overly produced. Again, I don't need you to be watching the stream and being entertained by it, because that goes counter to the goal, which is um, just having something on in the background while you're getting out those job applications, hearing some headline and going like, "Yeah, I know. What do you mean? That's crazy." Still getting out those job applications. That's our goal with this stream, is to facilitate the consistency of the job search. All right, let's get into it. The two things that I do on the stream are check the job trends, job posting trends. That is to say, and I do this by going to Indeed.com every morning, and I do some job searches and count the number of jobs posted every day in the last 24 hours. So I'll use the filters of Indeed to filter for the last 24 hours, so I have the freshest job postings. And then I take that data, throw it into a spreadsheet. I average it out over 7 days just to get rid of some of the up and down jagginess that happens during the week. There are more jobs posted on Wednesday or Thursday than there are Sunday. So, like when you look at the raw data, it's just all spazzy and hard to kind of get a sense of. So I average it out over the last 7 days just to kind of smooth out that curve a little bit. And part of the results that you're seeing right now are for entry level JavaScript positions. This is the student body that we've most catered to with our coding boot camp. So that's been the reason why I've been focusing on that for 2.5 years. 2.5 years, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, it's coming up on 3 years. So in the last week, we're seeing a slight uptick, just probably within the margin of error. But if we see any glimmer of hope, we're going to take it. It's a bit of an uptick, but in the last 6 months, nice trend in the right way. But you can definitely see in the last month, it's kind of leveled off and it's been pretty flat, right? And then finally, in the last year, um, you know, it has been trending down because that was the trend all year last year. But as we move into this new year, that trend is flattening. And of course, because the summer was so rough, um, and going into the fall, as we get through the spring, it's just naturally going to start to head up. Is the likelihood, unless there's something in the space that just crashes everything. We see a lot of layoffs. We have been seeing some notices about layoffs. We got those in the news today. We'll talk a little bit about that. Um, it's not as bleak as it was a year ago or 18 months ago in terms of the number of companies doing layoffs, but the layoffs are continuing. Um, and how much that's affecting the tech sector is a bit of an open question. They always have a big headline. Meta's laying off 3,500 people. Uh, this company is laying off this many people. They don't really give you the breakdown how many of those are actually programmers and how many are managers, salespeople, and whatever. Right? So it's hard to tease that out. And the only way we can see those trends is if we just look at the job postings. I utilize Indeed because it is 15 to 20% of all the job postings that are out there. And um, that is a good enough percentage of data to get some trends from. Not perfect, but when you look at these numbers and you go, all right, on average, there were 60 new job applications in the last 24 hours. You can essentially multiply that number by 5 in terms of the actual number of job postings that went out yesterday. Um, and we're not going to be getting out 300 job applications a day. So there's plenty for us to work on, right? Um, again, it was 50% higher at some point during the last year, and in the last few months, um, I'm going to see it climb back up there again. But does not mean there's not new jobs coming out every day. Yeah. The pool of people looking for it might be a little bigger than we'd like, but again, the jobs are out there, and the ones who get up early and get to the top of the stack are going to find the most luck, quote unquote, right? So, um, in a more granular view of JavaScript developers, we can see that again, all these lines are up and to the right, which we really can see, but we can also see that it's been very flat for the last month. That huge spike that we had coming out of the holidays has leveled off, and with the mid-level roles being the bulk of the job postings. And this has always been the case. The level has always been a little higher, right? For companies that want somebody with a little experience but don't want to pay as much as a senior role, they're going to kind of shoot down the middle, and maybe they'll get lucky, and some senior will be desperate and accept a junior role, and they get a bargain for their dollar. These are the games that corporations play, right? Um, so, uh, I'd like to see those numbers trending a little higher and to the right, but we are where we are. Again, um, all we can do is get a sense, and we take the information we can to motivate us and keep us in the game. That is the goal with this process. So, numbers behind us. Let's check out what's in the news. What is in the news? I am on LinkedIn. Please connect with me if you haven't already. It's always good to grow your network of connections in your industry, and I'm always looking to connect with people in tech, no matter what role they're in. Uh, so reach out to me on LinkedIn. YouTube CBS is staying on YouTube for now. Why did I click on this link? I don't remember. YouTube has struck a short-term deal to keep the networks, including CBS, MTV, and Nickelodeon, available to YouTube TV subscribers. Okay, I'm not a YouTube TV subscriber. I do pay for YouTube Red or Plus or whatever they're calling it now, so I don't have to look at commercials. But I don't. I was a cord cutter in that kind of first wave when my daughter, who is 20 years old now, was born. My wife and I symbolically cut the cable. We didn't. We canceled our cable and we went all in with Netflix, which at the time was shipping DVDs to our house. We have a child. If you're fortunate enough to have a leave of absence for that time, you and your partner have a lot of downtime and not a lot of sleep, and you're up at all these crazy hours. And um, we were burning through series like crazy. We couldn't get those DVDs from Netflix fast enough. Uh, it's changed in 20 years. I still have a DVD player, but yeah, it's been a while since I fired it up, I'll say. But in general, the idea of like flipping through the channels of cable network, man, those days are long gone for me. We don't do that in our family. Even now, like our Google TV has got all these live channels, which you can kind of go and watch live TV to kind of jump around. I just don't do it. I do not do it. Workers making industry jumps. This was an interesting article. As the job market tightens, many U.S. employees are eyeing new jobs there, and they're open to switching industries. 4 in 10 say they would consider changing industries, and 14% have either already made the jump or are actively pursuing one. Um, Young workers are more likely to be looking to make the switch. About 27% of Gen Z workers said so, compared to 17% of millennials and 13% of Gen X. Baby boomers, why are we even counting them? Why are you counting? They're gone. Baby boomers still in the workforce. The idea of changing industries is interesting, right? Um, I have changed industries many times in my career, um, but primarily because my orientation as a programmer has been one of um, I've been more of a 0 to 1 developer. Like I've really focused my career on helping go from idea to first customer, and it, so I that work didn't as much benefit from a whole lot of industry knowledge, right? It was really more about crafting these things that will be engaging, with human beings, no matter what their background is. Always working with subject matter experts, and I've done a variety of kinds of work, working for contract work, doing stuff for museums. I've done work for the 2 years working for a defense contractor, making materials for the Marines. I worked um, in a lot of different industries, consumer facing, and and enterprise. In that process, you know, for me, it was always learning. The interesting part was learning about new systems and kind of how the greater world worked, more than becoming you know, becoming an expert in, med tech or something like that, and really going deep on the technology. For me, you know, it, I'd rather work with a subject matter expert than be the expert of the content that I'm creating. Um, my expertise is more about the interface, about uh, how to get people engaged, more than it is what the content itself is, right? But I will say that in general, if you stick with one industry, if that industry is growing instead of shrinking, that resume looks more attractive, right? You've been in the automotive sector for 20 years and you're out there putting in job applications for another automaker, chances are they'll look at your resume more favorably than if you had, oh, he did for services, then he did a couple of years in health tech, then he did a couple of years in agricultural tech. Like, um, people, the thing that's, people don't like to, you know, talk too much about is the fact that most of the people in the hiring and interview process are not very creative individuals, right? And they are very risk averse because, again, a bad hire just sucks for a company. So they do everything they can to kind of hedge their bets. Anything that feels risky, if there's a less risky option, they're going to go for it. Right? So I'm programmed, again, I programmed in all these different environments for, you know, all these different kinds of things. You give me a task, I'll figure it out. If I don't have any direct experience with uh, what I'm doing, I've got 30 years of a career that kind of shows that. But you know, I, when I was young in my career, I got one job making a set of kiosks for a museum. It was a good job, paid well. Client was happy. Put it in my portfolio. Within a year, I got two more of those jobs. Uh, I could do those jobs. I can do a whole lot of other jobs. But, people said, like, I'm looking for this thing, and you've already done that thing. You're our guy, right? Plenty of other programmers who have done the exact same thing. Maybe ones with more experience than me, maybe ones who are more familiar with the topic at hand. But they gave it to me because, again, they're not very creative. They don't like risk. They look at um, they look at your portfolio. They look at your resume. In this case, they look at your LinkedIn and they go like, "Oh, that's the kind of work that we're gonna need somebody to do, and you've already done that kind of thing. You are gonna get a phone call from us." So, um, you know, there are different approaches there, right? But something to consider. Something to consider. Scoopers. This is another reason why we run into these from time to time. Again, I've been on this grind for a long time, and these waves of uh, things go through the HR world. There's a period of time where they were giving us a lot of like uh, question, like tests to take, just to gauge your knowledge. Some people still do that, but there was a time when literally I was going for like four job interviews in a row, and they were all sending me to the same service to take the same quiz, check my knowledge. Again, nobody wants to be responsible for a bad hire, so they're always hedging their bets. Like, oh, the test said they were good. They scored so well on the test, so it's not my fault. These are the things that we have to. Hiring is hard. Looking for a job is hard, and if there's an easier solution, people will opt for it. It's the way the world works. Oh yeah, here we go. Job searches lasting 6 months, 6+ months. Maybe it should be. The job search is getting more intense for applicants, and there are signs it's taking longer than expected to land a role. More than half Americans actively looking for a new job have been on the hunt for at least 6 months, according to LinkedIn's latest workforce conference survey. And over 1 in 3 have been searching for at least a year. That survey includes people searching for work, employed, or, you know, this is the thing. When you look at the unemployment numbers, you'd think that, oh man, there are just jobs all over the place. Um, we're at very low unemployment uh, right now. And so you look at those numbers and you go, how come I can't get a job? Everybody else seems to have a job. The reality is they don't have a career. They've got, they're working for Uber or they're working for, delivering Amazon packages or they're working for a fast food restaurant. Um, yeah, I mean, there are lots of jobs out there, but they're not ones to, you know, support a family. Um, so, like, I've got a fella in our program right now, and he's out there hustling to try and get his first job as a program. Super talented, uh, always hustling, working on interesting stuff. Found himself out of work, so now he's hustling just to get any job, keep the search going. It's not just sitting around like waiting to get the big job. He can't do that. He's got to pay the rent. So he's out there hustling right now to get just any job to pay the bills while he supports his job search for the job that really he deserves. Right? He's putting in work, he's learning the skills. He's a good, solid young developer, and he just needs a shot right now. So he's going to keep hustling until he gets that job. I bet money on that. This guy is on top. And that's what it is. It is that grit. It's that stick to itiveness. You just gotta stay in the game until you get to the finish line. Right? That finish line is a new job. White House plans reciprocal tariffs. This is in a very complex um, financial and political environment. It's hard to point to one thing and say this is why. There's so many variables as to why hiring is going up, hiring is going down. But one thing that I keep talking about, the drum I keep banging, is that business does not like uncertainty, and this new administration is all about uncertainty. Every day there's a new memo out. I'm going to do this. Oh, then 2 days later I'm backing off doing it. Oh, the next day there's a new thing. Oh, there's another thing, and all of that uncertainty um, is putting businesses in a wait and see. They're like, hey, we thought we were just going to get these great tax cuts and less regulation, and everything was going to be great. And so they were hiring like crazy into into January, and then we get a new leader in the administration, starts signing all these things. Now they're like, wait a minute, we just wanted the tax cut and less regulation. What are you doing here with this tariffs? So you know, we'll see. Time will definitely tell what this means in terms of the overall health of the country and the direction we're heading in. But a lot of businesses, especially if you're a hardware business in tech, are reliant on China. Small companies, in some ways, are even more reliant on China. Large companies can't afford to create factories in the United States or with other trade partners. But most medium, small sized companies that I've worked for and a couple of startups that I've had were reliant on working with Chinese companies to produce goods, and it's gonna be some time until the trickle down of these tariffs and what their effects are gonna play out. So that uncertainty is not great for the tech industry. Anthropic projects soaring growth of $34.5 billion in 2027 revenue. This headline just caught my eye. I haven't read the article, but what the heck? How, you know, what business writer is reading a press release saying that they're going to grow to 34 billion in 2 years in revenue and writing this with a straight face? Like, we're in uncharted territory. Uh, if anything, DeepSeek taught us that we can't make any predictions about where this thing is going. We're on the bull and we're holding on for dear life. And we're going to end up where we're going to end up. Maybe we'll get to the 8 seconds. Maybe we're going to end up in the dirt. But it's going to be a wild ride. And the idea of any predictions, even 2 years out, is just absurd. It's just a press release. They're trying to get some news so that potential investors might think, hey, there's something going on there. Let's give them some money. That's what all these companies are. They need more money to train their models, to run their models, and with a more fractured um, list of competitors, including open source, it's getting harder for them to raise their money. So they have to make these crazy predictions. Again, that might turn out to be right. But what's it based on? Nothing. Nothing. In 6 months, a new open source model could come out and just render all this stuff old news. It's not they would quit overnight, and they already have a user base who use it every day. So it's not like they'll just immediately dry up. But again, projecting huge growth is a hard thing to kind of lay a claim to. I don't buy this at all. Um, and the one thing I will say that's good about Anthropic is their willingness to experiment with their interface. A lot there's a lot of talk about putting these models on benchmarks and, oh, this one scored a little bit better than this and this one scored a little bit better than this. The reality is, like, I'm not messing with any of those open source models because they don't have a good interface. Right? It's like, I don't care how good your engine is if the it's some weird steering wheel and all the controls are backwards or in the wrong place. It's not comfortable to use. I'm not going to drive that car, right? This is uh, how we interface with the model is more important than the quality of the information that comes out, because they're all just 5% better at this or 6% better at this. Um, but what is the interface that you're using? What are the features? How are you benefiting from that, right? And there's a bunch of experiments going on right now. And the companies that have the money to experiment uh, are going to, find really interesting ways to use these and get into our workflow. And Anthropic's done a pretty good job of that. Again, I'm not going to Claude every day like I am Open AI, uh, but they're coming up with new ideas. They're pushing the boundary of how we're going to use these in our daily life, and they're definitely worth keeping an eye on. But making these crazy predictions does not make any sense to me. All right. Jamie Dimon. So there was a story earlier in the week that there was a petition floating around with lots and lots of signatures of people working for JP Morgan Chase who were complaining about having to return to office. And Jamie came out yesterday and said, I don't care. I just don't care. Uh, how many people signed that effing petition, he said. Um, they have 317,000 employees worldwide. 950 of them signed the petition. Uh, you know, a lot of those employees, a significant number of those employees work at uh, uh, banking locations, so they kind of have to go into the job. I'd be curious how many of those people were actually remote. Working to keep the headcount flat, we'll continue to invest in hiring new professionals where they're appropriate, and currently have 14,000 open positions. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, banking not sexy, but uh, and as we've added these apps, like once I was able to grab my phone and scan a check and upload it to deposit that check, I stopped going to the bank overnight. Like I was just like, I'm done. I don't need to run to the bank, cash a check, or deposit a thing anymore. Like this is amazing. Um, you know, they've been as an industry very good at embracing new technology, and that has led to a lot of there just aren't as many bank tellers as there used to be, uh, and that will continue to some extent. You know, but I think for the most part, we are kind of where we are. There's not going to be a lot of shakeup in that industry because they've embraced the technology. Offices return to office initiative is in flux. The Wall Street Journal reports as 350,000 corporate employees ordered into offices full time this year still faces a space crunch. Workers at dozens of sites are waiting to hear when they can actually return. And those who have gone back encounter parking shortages or no teammates when they get there. Amazon said return to office would enable collaboration and system. The overwhelming majority of employers do, in fact, have seats. Um, yeah, it's not the first time we've seen this news story. Saw one last month about other corporations who were like, "All right, everybody gets back to work on Monday," and then everybody showed up on Monday at the same time, and they were not prepared. Not prepared. The company short at least 800 desks in San Francisco Bay Area. Hundreds of employees submitted a plan asking for a new office in the region, citing a lack of space and parking along the bristling commutes. It's not for you. That's okay. You can go and find another company. Quote, quote. Oh. Again, we've come a long way in the last 20 years, especially in the Bay Area where everything was like, oh, we don't ever want to leave the office. We have on-site chefs and dry cleaning and all these uh, perks for tech workers. So they never leave, spend all their time just working on product. And then during the pandemic, they're like, get out of here, go, go, go. And by the way, we're cutting all of these budgets for all these perks. And then they're like, come back, come back, come back. And there's no perks. Oh, and by the way, we forgot. We wanted to save some money, so we got rid of a bunch of desks. Or, during the pandemic, the other thing too is to factor in is like pre-pandemic, they had a certain amount number of employees. They had the desk for everybody. In the pandemic, they went on a hiring spree because they got a bunch of money from the government that gave them the opportunity to, bump up the head count. And they hired a whole bunch of people, but they were all remote. So now they went through a bunch of layoffs. They still probably net have more employees than they did pre-pandemic. And so, yeah, we just don't have as many desks because those people that they were hired during the pandemic never had a desk. They didn't have any desk at all. So it's not like they. I went back to my old office and my desk is not there. It's not that. It's like they've just never been to that office before, and so yeah, just scrambling to do that. That's you know a problem that could have probably easily been foreseen, but we are where we are, as it were. Okay, looking good. We've got how much time? 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes. Got a couple more stories. Inside Amazon's messy push to bring everyone back to the office. The 5-day policy dials back flexibility that predated the pandemic. Employees are returning to find they have no desks, not enough parking, and still endless virtual meetings. This is an interesting too thing. Like, they wanted to cut down on these virtual meetings, and in general, uh, yeah, virtual meetings kind of got out of control. If you're working remote, if you don't have a small team where you can kind of stay on top of it. Um, but everybody returning to office is supposed to solve that problem. But of course, if everybody on your team does not have a desk or can't get back to the office, then yeah, even if 9 out of the 10 people on your team are in the office, they still have to do Zoom meetings because the one person is out. So the Zoom meetings, the virtual meetings aren't going to end. They're just will be in the same cubicles next to each other, all in the same Zoom meeting. It's a messy, messy world out there for sure. Oh, flu's officially hit a second high in the United States. No, my son went back to school in January after the holiday break. He came home in the first week he got the flu. And two other people in my circle that also got the flu. I, fortunately, my son brought it home, but he didn't share it with my wife or I. My daughter's away at college, so we dodged that bullet. Um, but Texas is one of those very high states where the flu's hitting pretty heavily. Um, it is interesting. They do check for flu in the wastewater, so they do testing of what we flush down our toilets, and if they find a high incidence of the flu there, they can use that as an indicator. They've been doing that for quite a long time, but I was so impressed when I first heard that. I was like, that is brilliant. Very cool. Influenza, cold, COVID-19. Haven't heard much about COVID-19. I ended up catching it once last year, uh, but it's all about the flu these days. What do we got in the tech news? New product date is almost here, just days away for the new iPhone. That's interesting. The pen that fits into the back instead of kind of slides into a Well, I don't know about that. I got one of those pen phones, and I thought I would use it a bunch, and I just didn't. I just never touched the pen. It was folding screens. Have you guys used any of the folding screens in the wild? Like, I've just never touched or seen them. I see them all over YouTube and at CES and all that stuff, but in terms of, like, people using them in the wild, I just haven't seen anybody using them, and I haven't physically touched I'm not going out of my way to do it. I'm sure I could go to a store and play with them, but I haven't done that. Google Gemini now brings receipts to your AI chats. I have not played around with the new Gemini. Everybody's talking about the new Gemini. I haven't had any time. I've been heads down working on cranking out stuff these days. Uh, I've been wanting to spend time with Notebook LM and what's that other one? The other Google project. Uh, I'll get the tab open because I keep thinking I'm going to have time to go mess with it, and I've not had time to do that. What is the name of it? There's like a Google. I think it's on my other computer. There's a Google AI platform. It's supposed to be really cool. That I have not played with yet. More phones, more games, more games. Blue Origin planning second New Glenn launch for late spring. That's just a headline that they were laying off people. New Glenn. I mean, if you're a space nerd, now is the time. Yeah, it has never been more spacey or more nerdy than now in terms of the number of rocket launches and things that are happening. More talk about going back to the moon. Yeah, from SpaceX last launch looms over its next one. Test fire Starship mega rocket super heavy booster package. Hackers somehow uploaded a game full of malware on Steam. Yeah, not a game I played though. Nintendo's Power World lawsuit might go international as new patents land U.S. approval. U.S. Patent Office rejects 22 out of 23 patent claims from Nintendo on the Power World lawsuit. More complicated as Nintendo bans a U.S. patent. It sounds a lot like the reason they're suing Pocket Pair in Japan. Uh, my kids were all about Power World for like 2 weeks when it came out. Haven't heard much about it lately, but they really guns game for a little bit. Lots of buzzing around the house. Apple is reportedly exploring humanoid robots. Robot looks like the Pixar lamp. That's hilarious. AMD. Yeah, we just do not hear very much about AMD anymore. Nvidia just stole all of the press. Uh, Elon Musk's X is pulling up big name advertisers back. That was an hour ago. We saw a story about that. Um, Apple resumes, yeah, advertising. I mean, it was earlier this week on X, which is really interesting because they've not done any change. Like from all accounts, there's still more, you know, racist, sexist. homophobic stuff on X than there has ever been, and a lot because of the XAI. A lot of fake uh, content, generating fake content. Why advertisers would want to be there is beyond me. There's so many places you can advertise. So many other platforms. Why is that a need? You just go like, well, why take the risk? Red cameras. I remember when the red came out. Oof, it went so bad. Haven't played any Helldivers content. Why should you download the latest update from Apple? The next Xbox is going to be very different. That's interesting. Fully approved by Microsoft. It reaches a critical internal milestone. My brother used to work at Microsoft in Seattle, and he was in the DirectX testing division. And he climbed the ranks all the way to the top. There were just him and a handful of other people at the top of their testing division. They started out with DirectX on the PC, and then the Xbox, which was um, using a separate version of it, ended up going with the pull everything together and have all their devices, laptops, desktops, Xbox, using the same uh, DirectX, so that all of the testing was rolled under the same division. And he did that for a number of years. His job was to test video games every day. But it was kind of funny because his job was not to play video games; it was to test video games. And so um, he was he basically played every video game, but he only played the first 30 minutes of it just to make sure that stuff wasn't broken, right? Or if they got a report that something was broken, like he'd just go to try and find that particular issue. So he spent a lot of time playing video games, but he didn't get past, didn't get very far past that. And they gave him lots of video games as a perk for the job, and he just didn't play very many video games with his off time because that was his whole day job. Kind of funny. The PlayStation Plus announced. We've not been a PlayStation family, so a lot of that stuff I don't even know what PS Plus is. Is it by Xbox Live or I don't know. Do not know. Car stuff. Civ 7 on sale. Lots of video games and stuff. Oh, 3 minutes left. Okay, so we're getting down to the end of it. I do a customary thing every Friday, and that is to remind you that, that job postings don't end on Friday. New jobs are posted by the end of day Friday. They can be super fresh come Saturday morning. Some jobs are posted on Saturday. Some jobs are posted on Sunday. Most people who are in the job search but aren't as focused as you are going to take the weekends off. I'll get back to it on Monday. Uh, you you're gonna get up bright and early tomorrow. You're gonna do the same routine. I won't be here. I do take the weekends off, but you got a good habit now of getting up every morning, Monday through Friday. We're gonna keep that rolling. We're gonna search for the uh, last 24 hours, the most fresh jobs, and all those people who are taking the weekends off, who aren't as serious as you, who aren't as committed as you, are not going to get to the top of the stack of those new job postings uh, that happen over the weekend. So you're going to get up. You're going to get those job applications out tomorrow. You're going to get up Sunday, um, before everybody wakes up in the house. You're gonna get those job applications out, and you're gonna get that interview. That's the thing. Right? We need to be tenacious. We need to use we need to look for every bit of leverage that we can. And the most important leverage you can get, especially when it comes to job boards, is getting in early, getting in as quickly as you possibly can so you can get at the top of that stack. You may be the most qualified person, but if you're the 100th resume in the stack, you're not getting that job. You're just not getting that job because they will find a suitable candidate before they even get to the point of looking at your submission. So, um, consistent, looking for angles any way we can. One of those angles is to do the little extra effort, work when a lot of your competition are not working, show up, get the get the uh, get those apps out, and you're going to be in a better position. Right. So there we go. We did it. Another week in the books. Happy Valentine's Day. If you're celebrating that in some way today. If not, we will see you next Monday, 8 to 9, Monday through Friday, Central Standard Time. I am broadcasting from Austin, Texas. My name is Keith.